Good morning. Yesterday we were looking at the odd couple of George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton. It was Barbara Bush who really started talking about them as the odd couple. And they were so very different. And yet when they focused on really blessing life, responding to the tsunami that took place over in Thailand and all those countries, and then responding to Hurricane Katrina and raising funds to help people on the Gulf Coast, they created a space so that they could get to know one another. That even though they were so very different ideologically and in their backgrounds, how they grew up, they had so much that they could appreciate in the other person and discovered they really did like each other. But it was by giving to others, helping, blessing life, that they created space in a relationship to get to know one another. You have to have a certain personality and spirit. Bill Clinton gave a whole lot of credit to George Bush for bringing that spirit to their relationship and really enabling this thing to their relationship to take off. You can see his spirit by several things in his life. I was reading all about George Bush and getting ready for the sermon. I came across a great story of how on January 20th in 1993, they handed over the White House. It was the transfer of power that goes on every 4 or 8 years. And it was Barbara Bush who made the observation, and she said, on January 20th, we woke up at the White House with a household staff of 93. The next morning, we woke up in Houston, and it was George, me, and 2 dogs. How quickly things can change. And they would embrace the change that it would bring. It happens to everyone. Sometimes we think we are so important and we matter so much. And then we discover that really we're all God's children and there is no one person who is so much more important than anybody else. You remember under George Bush, his Secretary of State was Jim Baker. And he did an outstanding job, and he was a close friend. And then, of course, they were now out. And Jim Baker tells the story of how it wasn't too long after they had left the White House where he had been so visible in the public eye and around the world. And he was going through an airport just like everybody else now. And in the airport, a person came up to him and said, "Excuse me, aren't you Jim Baker?" And Jim kind of straightened up and smiled and said, "Well, yes, I am." And the man said, "Well, tell me, how's Tammy Faye?" Jim said it kind of brings you down a notch. But that really is okay. You remember it was the Apostle Paul who said, love is not arrogant or boastful or rude. If you and I want to walk in a spirit of love, then we can't be arrogant or boastful or rude. And when we can live in that humble spirit, then it makes such a difference in the way that we can create space to get to know other people and truly let people who are different from us help to become our friends. It's why I think that George Bush was able to write the letter that I read you Sunday that he did. And when he would come to the end, he would be able to say, "You will be our president when you read this note. I wish you well. I wish your family well. Your success now is our country's success. I'm rooting hard for you. Good luck, George." To be able to cheer someone else on, you have to have that kind of an humble spirit. Be not arrogant or boastful or rude. When you and I will remember the words of Paul, it'll help us to create space with our friends and those who are different from us, so that maybe we really can work to come together and to love one another, no exception. I know we're going to go out and do it today. Have a great one.